What's up, everyone? Welcome to Dogs Down South. It's a Tuesday night selection show, college football bracket show, college football clown show, whatever you want to call it. We're going to be watching this thing live. We're just going to talk a lot about what we think will happen. We know it won't happen because we're dealing with some robotic weirdos, to say the least. So it's going to be a fun show tonight, though. Let me add the crew in here. What's up, Rich Man? What's up, Fish? How you guys doing tonight?
What's going on, man?
Hey.
Cold
Glad to
here
be
in
here.
Florida. Cold. We're
Yeah,
gonna get into
I'm
our
loving the
highs.
weather.
Are gonna get into your guys' I don't know. You don't see our highs the rest of the year. So
Man, we're supposed to see the high 20s tonight.
dude, and we're scared about the high 30s. So
I know.
we gotta shackle in, man. This is
Yeah.
some good weather though, man. It actually feels like December.
It's
And around the
seasonal.
holidays, man, you know,
It's
it's
great.
always good to actually feel like this the holidays, right?
Yes, sir.
So good to have the entire crew. Missing my man Bobby Riles, man. He wanted to be here tonight, man. Bobby's got a lot of things going on, man, and he's pastoring a church up there in old Cordele, Georgia, and wish him the best. But he might pop in. He said in the comments, and we're happy to bring him in. Maybe I can get him a code to bring him in late if he comes in. But it's gonna be a fun night. We're gonna watch the selection show live. It's about 6:52, and about 7 o'clock they're gonna come on, and these clowns are gonna tell us what they figured out. I mean, me and Rich Man went live last night, and you know, Rich Man doesn't trust these guys, man. Rich Man, tell me why you don't trust these guys.
Dude, I don't trust them at all. I mean,
How can you?
when they come out and they literally say that strength of schedule doesn't matter. I mean,
It doesn't. Apparently, it doesn't.
games.
So
Well,
how can they even say that how can they even use the term quality win and quality loss if strength of schedule doesn't matter?
Let's do away with all of the conferences. Everybody can be an independent and pick
I mean,
the cupcake is schedule you can schedule.
play all the cupcakes.
And then we'll have 12 teams undefeated going into the playoffs.
Sure.
And nobody will know anything.
Apparently, that's what they want.
Yeah. No,
I mean,
that's not what they want, guys. What they want, and this is what I've contended the whole time. They've been playing these games and stacking this thing to try to eliminate as many SEC teams as possible and try to keep the SEC out of the finals. That's what I think.
I believe it too.
I mean, can't this commissioner just be happy, man? Michigan just beat Ohio State, man, and they're not even supposed to be. I don't know. They're supposed to not even have anything to celebrate this year. I mean, maybe that's what jostles like the mindset, right? They finally get another win, and they're not really going to do much after that. That was their kind of Super Bowl for the year.
Yeah, that was it.
But it was a big Super Bowl for them. But let's hop in. Let's talk. We're going to start with. So, I think what we need to talk about before we talk about anything is what the committee's already talking about on Saturday and Sunday, and now what the rest of the world's talking about is if we kind of know without numbers where things might line up per this win or that win. And I think I know what Richman is saying, and I think at least the sporting world, if they listen to the sporting world will be extremely shocked that this committee doesn't value the conference championships.
Mm-hmm.
I think they will. I will be highly shocked if they don't. But I agree with you guys. Like, they haven't also valued the strength of schedule, which is almost something that's kind of dumb to even think they haven't valued. But let's look at the 4 teams that I think are, before this bracket even drops tonight, what I think is the bubble teams, right? So you look at these 4 teams. I think you're looking at Alabama. I think you're looking at Miami. I think you're looking at South Carolina, and I think you're looking at Ole Miss. Now, I'm going to ask Richman first. Like, out of those 4 teams, like, let's take 2 of those. Who do you think have the 2 best shot out of that 4 to be on bubble watch if, per se, like an SMU really gets dominated in that ACC championship? If, per se, I mean, I don't want to say this, but if a Penn State was dominated, by a Oregon, which is possible, if a Georgia was dominated, like could one of these teams slide in? But who would even have the opportunity to do it out of those 4 teams, Richman?
Well, it'd be Bama.
Who else would be on there besides Bama? Though? You have Ole Miss, South Carolina. I mean, do you think? Let's just take it this way. You think Miami's out?
Does Miami have 2 losses? Just
losses
2?
to Georgia Tech. Yeah, losses to Georgia Tech. Losses to Syracuse.
But win losses have to matter, right? Like the record has to matter, is what everybody's saying. Yes. So how are they going to pick the best team when all the criteria contradicts itself?
Right. I mean, Richman says Bama. Who do you think, Fish? I mean,
not Bama. Why Bama?
Why Bama? I mean, because the world loves Bama.
Because it's Bama, man.
They're like the Dallas Cowboys of college football. They are. Like they're.
But why is Bama ranked 11th right now? What is their?
I don't know why. They should not be. There is no reason. They're not even the best 3-loss team. I don't think. I think South Carolina is the best 3-loss team. I think most people agree.
But I think this conversation, and the reason I started with this, starts to talk about the committee, because I think the committee is very two-faced. They're two-faced. Because you look at the South Carolina loss.
I think they'll take Miami.
2 losses. Maybe, that has to be the difference.
But who are the 2 losses against? Who are the 2 losses against? So you look at
Bama lost to Vandy and Oklahoma.
Right. And then Ole Miss loses.
Criteria at all. They don't care.
And Miami lost to Syracuse and Georgia Tech. So are we saying Vandy and Oklahoma are better losses than Syracuse and Georgia Tech?
And that's the thing. It's like when you look at so my thing is South Carolina. Let's take South Carolina. I think they're one of the hottest teams in the SEC in the last 6 games. But they were one of the most unpredictable SEC teams in the first 6 games, losing I forget. I think it was at Old Dominion. It was some team that shouldn't have been a loss. But I think, but the committee can't count that really in their mind, because if they do that, then they got to hold Notre Dame accountable to Northern Illinois. So then they're not going to do that, right?
No.
So I think they could look at South Carolina. If they give Notre Dame that, they could look at South Carolina as one of the hotter teams, obviously beating Clemson. The wins they've had in the last 5 or 6 games have been they've looked the part. I mean, they've looked the part, which is what I keep hearing from the committee. They say that they watch the games and that's how they look. But I will tell you that I think I agree with Richman. I think when you look at Ole Miss and you look at Miami and you look at Alabama and who are we leaving out? South Carolina. I think South Carolina. I think it's Alabama. I think it's Alabama because it's Alabama. That's just me. I think it's Alabama.
Let me ask you this. So if we throw in Oregon's in, Ohio State's in, Penn State's in, Indiana's in, Georgia's in, Tennessee's in, Texas is in. The Big 12 champion, which will be Iowa State or Arizona State, one of those. Clemson or SMU, one of those. And then Notre Dame, and then the group of 5 champ, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And Iowa State and Arizona State both have 3 losses. So if they're not punishing the loser of the conference championship games like they keep saying, or everybody else keeps saying, there's going to be a 4-loss Big 12 team in there.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's only going to be the winner of the Big 12 and the winner of the ACC. I think that's what you're going to see. I think that's what they're going to try to. And then you got one left. Who's the wild card?
Right. So I'm thinking, and that gets us into. So I think Bama is possible, but I think if we look at what I think the playoff reveal will look like tonight, I think tonight. Now we're not talking about, I do think there's a possibility that the committee could put Georgia in at the 2 spot tonight because of the head-to-head against Texas at Texas this year. I'm not counting it. They've had Texas in that spot all year, but this is a little bit different scenario. Now they have to kind of think, well, who do we think will be in that spot? And they really want to make this bracket look as close that they can to maybe how the outcome of those championship games will look. I'm guessing. Right. But what I think it will look like tonight is I think it will look like Oregon. So I have a bracket of Georgia wins and I have a bracket of Georgia loses.
Yeah.
I have Oregon, Georgia, Clemson, Boise State. What do you guys think about the Clemson SMU matchup, Fish? What do you think? I mean, I know we're going to call that winner or loser tonight later on, but go ahead and let's do it early. Like, what do you think? Do you think I'm thinking Clemson's defense, mobile quarterback, a little bit more, I don't know, just battle tested. Clemson playing a Georgia defense, playing a
Yeah.
I'm thinking Clemson wins that game. I don't want to turn you guys' heads, but what do you think about Clemson SMU, Fish?
I think SMU is playing out of their minds. I think they're having a incredible season by their standards and by anyone's standards. Where are they sitting there? One loss?
One loss, but
Oh.
and I was gonna. This is where we just said it a minute ago, but you said strength of schedule. I mean, they're not looking at it, but I pulled SMU's schedule, and this is what bothers me about if SMU loses. I just don't know, man. Houston Christian, BYU was their loss. BYU is almost an irrelevant team now.
Yeah.
TCU, Florida State, Louisville, Stanford, Duke, Pitt, Boston College, Virginia, Cal.
I think Clemson's got a better strength of schedule. So
yeah, I think so too.
But we don't know how these clowns are going to play that.
Right.
They say one thing and then they do another. So I mean, it's almost impossible to keep track of what they actually want. How are you supposed to know what they want?
Yeah. Let's look real
they
quick.
don't even know what they want. Kirby Smart even said that. They don't know what they want.
Yeah.
It's almost
the
like
stage. They're dropping the
cupcakes.
I know.
They're dropping the top 25 now.
Let's win. The tiebreaker will not play in the Big 12 championship game. Syracuse, after knocking Miami out of the ACC championship game, now giving the ACC another ranked team.
This is live. I do not own rights to this.
That conference as they trying to get multiple bids. Rhett Bielema's Illinois team, another quiet 9-win squad. They're at number 21. Nice. They have lost to number 1 Oregon and Penn State. We assume Oregon's going to be number 1 again. They're the only undefeated team in the country. Number 20, UNLV is going to play for a spot in the playoff against Boise State in the Mountain West Championship game. Barry Odom's team.
UNLV is going to play Boise. Talk about an upset.
20. 19.
Can you imagine UNLV sliding in and getting a bye?
All of those 3-loss SEC teams, one of whom is Missouri, but because of the strength of schedule and the losses that they had, the particular losses, not really viewed to be in that 3-loss mix. BYU started off hot, lost a couple, finished with a win, did not make it to the Big 12 championship game. But what a season they had. They're at number 18 and up a single spot. Clemson, after losing to South Carolina, drops 5 spots, but Clemson simply win, and if they win the ACC championship game against SMU, they'll go to the playoffs.
No doubt, that's a great thing. If you're Dabo Swinney and Tyler from Spartanburg, we'll be happy. Win, and we are in.
And Missouri just keeps hanging around.
It's the fabulous parting, a consolation prize, as it were, for Tyler from Spartanburg. Dabo said people would be mad if they made it. No, they won't. They'll say, hey, good job, Dabo. Number 16, Iowa State. Iowa State's playing for the Big 12 title. Like Clemson, winning in. No real shot at an at-large berth for Matt Campbell.
They lost those games early, and they've been just holding around.
At number 15,
you saw so many people thinking they were going to be in that game. It's crazy how they have them ranked 15, 16 going to this
Big 12
championship. Whoever wins it's in, no one else goes
to that.
Also, seeing UNLV where they were, assuming Boise beats UNLV in the Mountain West title game in Boise, Idaho, their backyard on the blue turf. Likely that Boise's
everybody's talking about this committee like
we're going to rank it for the best matchup,
starting as at least 15 or 16.
I don't know if this playoff's going to. I'll tell you some interesting things.
That would put them, and if they don't get into the top 12, put them at number 12.
South Carolina moves up. Let's see how they value these bubble teams right here. So, I mean, that kind of says where they're at with the committee right there. It says South Carolina is effectively not a top 4 bubble team.
Nobody more hot than South Carolina at this time of year. It's unfortunate they lost games early on, but they've now won 6 in a row. Texas A&M in that cluster, Missouri, Clemson.
I think those losses,
those 6 wins they have,
their losses, who they lost
to. Not going to get it done.
Well, Bama's got to be a good loss, right?
South Carolina's problem is head-to-head.
Yeah, but not
most notably against
Ole Miss. So they think Ole Miss is
9-3.
I think you can see that you can see who the SEC team is they value. I think it's Alabama. Right here, you're going to see if they value Alabama or they value Miami.
And South Carolina, their strength of schedule is 31. So by some of the teams in front of them, comparison, not quite as strong, knowing that they lost to some teams that aren't in the top 25, like Kentucky and LSU. And obviously, that third loss against Florida is a tough one for them to stomach.
So now this is where we're at the spot of where
the
last
God.
team in and first
they
team
value
out.
Alabama as the first team on the bubble watch.
No real great
First
wins
team
for the Canes this year. The Canes dropped 6 spots.
I think Miami losing 2 of their last 3 really hurt them, Georgia Tech and Syracuse. And we were really waiting to see where Miami was compared to Alabama. So we talked about the last team in. We just needed to see. Now Alabama's ahead of
Which
Miami,
is wild
so
because these are,
like
these are 2 losses to unranked teams. And Georgia Tech really handed them a tough loss. They beat them handily.
They have not been, so far the committee has acknowledged win-loss record, but Miami now, their best win against Duke and Louisville, neither team in the top 25. So
better not.
Really tough.
I mean, it doesn't matter because there has to be a
Alabama at 11.
One thing all of these teams have proven is we look at number 11.
There has to be a
number 11 is Alabama,
so
as we expected.
So they clearly value them as the best.
Have proven they can lose. They've proven they can lose to mediocre teams. There are disqualifying factors for all of them. So the question becomes, what did you do well enough to put you at the top of this stack?
And right now they
have
that
Georgia win by Bama is like carrying them.
This is something that Ward Manuel has told us. It's not necessarily going to be the team that has the
that's what we'll talk about. I think that,
the only good win they
does it carry? How does that carry with
better teams? And that's a clear statement based on.
I think the committee's going to look at Bama and go, there was unranked teams they lost to.
Decipher it because we're seeing these
both of them. Exactly.
That would make Alabama the last team in the field at the moment. Now, this might be important too. Boise State is number 10.
So Boise moves up number 10.
Situation, if they lose, they're unlikely to make it.
Naturally, but they will, barring upset by UNLV, right?
They'll beat UNLV.
Because there's another buffer ranking line. We haven't seen SMU.
I hope
Genty's going to have 250.
Beat SMU. One would think.
I mean, that would put the winner of SMU
depending on how the game
and Iowa State with a bye.
Indiana. So now we have another line before we see the Ponies. And Kurt Cignetti's team, strength of schedule was debated. They really had one huge game, lost it against
Ohio State. Thumped Purdue, didn't they?
Settling at 65. But
Purdue might be the worst team in college football.
They hammered every other mediocre team they play.
And we talked a lot about the strength of schedule, 103, 104, 105. It wound up being 65th, which is not great, but it's somewhere in the middle, and I think that's more salvageable for them.
It's almost dead in the middle. Out of 134, it's almost right in the middle of the pack. 8. There's SMU. SMU has only one loss early in the season on the road against BYU. And the Mustangs will play Clemson for the ACC championship.
Imagine if SMU is sitting there undefeated. That's the thing is you kind of want SMU just to go ahead and take that spot. Because Clemson has nowhere to be in this top 12.
I think they're in a really good spot.
If Clemson loses now,
you look at who they've now beaten.
I don't know.
Duke, Louisville, same suspects as Miami. And Miami
had another 2-loss team. If they lose, that Bama jumps.
Not a single win against.
No, that just means that Bama has an easy way in because SMU is a clear-cut. Clemson's not going to make the top 12. That's where Bama slips in. If SMU takes care of business, that's where they slip in.
Look at Tennessee.
Tennessee takes over 7. I had Notre Dame here.
We have not seen Ohio State yet.
No, this is not the playoff. This is not the. This is not the playoff.
They may be matched up against one another, and this will decide who gets the home game. And this is huge. It's cold in Columbus, Ohio.
It's cold in Knoxville.
Now, do they value the SEC over Notre Dame?
Ohio State.
We're supposed to find out right now. Notre Dame was.
They have a chance to beat it.
What was the bigger win last? I mean, you probably just see Georgia here. No, Ohio State. Okay.
It's not Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. Down there. Wow. Ohio State's at number 6. They dropped 4 spots.
Still 2 wins against.
Here's the big thing, man. I mean, talk about viewership. I mean, do you put 2 and 4 against each other in the SEC championship?
So I
mean, who lands right here, Notre Dame or Georgia?
Still
it's going to show if they value the SEC over the win against I think Notre Dame.
At number 5, the Georgia Bulldogs will have a couple of top 5 matchups in conference championship games.
So
Georgia and Texas playing for the SEC crown. At number 4, the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame.
I cannot believe Notre Dame is at 4 right now.
No conference,
by not playing in a conference, lining up the cupcakes and losing to Northern Illinois.
So they can't get a first-round bye.
Do we lose Fish?
The best scenario for the Fighting Irish is that they would be seeded 5th.
I think if I were Notre Dame, I'd feel really good. We're in, and most 99% of the time, they're going to host a first-round game.
Well, I've been yelling at my phone.
2021st, somebody's.
But y'all haven't been hearing me. Notre Dame can't finish 4th. They can't be ranked higher than 5th.
Yeah, right.
It's a different level, Joey.
Oof,
Number 3,
wow.
Penn State.
That's
Penn
wild.
State in the Big Ten championship game benefited from Ohio State stumbling against Michigan.
Are we seeing this right here? So it's lining up. It's wins and losses. Right now, it's wins and losses.
In the SEC, and
but only at certain parts. See, it's so inconsistent, man.
The Big
It's
Ten
so
championship. So now you've seen the.
Because you're telling me a Notre Dame 11-1 is better right now than a 10-2 who's lost. On the road against Alabama, who's in the top.
Was number 1 at the time.
Is the highest ranked teams from a conference.
So here we go. So we got Arizona in, Boise, Oregon, SMU. So they have Texas in at second right now.
And Boise State first round bye.
So
Arizona State.
This is barring. This is kind of barring a Georgia loss. So I think you're going to see Georgia. Yeah, there's Georgia 7. You're going to see Georgia,
Indiana.
Indiana.
They would play at Penn State. Ohio State would have a home game.
You're going to see. This is exactly how I rolled it out with the loss.
Scenario would play a home game, and look at that.
8-9 Tennessee. Ooh, no. Yeah, 8-9 Tennessee. 5 Penn State, Indiana. Yeah, Alabama, Notre Dame. That's exactly how.
The first year of the expanded.
No, I had SMU, Notre Dame. They have SMU in
Arizona State at Penn State.
But they have Alabama getting in right now. They're in right now.
Will be for the last team in at the moment. It may not be a point at the end.
That makes no sense.
The committee said up to this point.
Well, a couple of things that jumped out. Number one, if I were
because it's not wins and losses, but it is wins and losses, and it's not quality losses and wins.
And that's what we just said. That's what we just said. If SMU beats Clemson, that gives Alabama their in.
Because you have a team.
See, it depends on who you are by the criteria you're judged on. That makes no sense.
Let's see what Booger said. He's talking some nonsense. He loves to argue with us.
Alabama in over Miami right now. I think that's one of those things, man. We better be careful as far as that's concerned when these schedules are imbalanced.
We don't have to be careful at all. When you look at the teams that Alabama beat, and you look at the way Miami finished with the 2 out of 3 to unranked teams, then it opens that door. And once you open the door to be judged on the eye test,
when you lose and
after
when
that,
you win,
that's your business. And I've said this to Reese before.
It shouldn't, but
all
it does.
These teams we're talking about, Ole Miss,
McElroy
Alabama,
kind of talks the
South
most
Carolina,
sense, in my opinion.
now
You guys agree?
Miami. When you open the door and lose to unranked teams,
I think
now whatever the
Galloway
says,
is really
okay
far
with.
right, and I think Booger's really far left. I think McElroy kind of tries
to
mix
in this
both
discussion
sides.
because they wouldn't be in it if they did not.
Let me ask you, Greg, about football judgment. That's what I like to use instead of the eye test. Football judgment for Alabama, that Oklahoma performance was abysmal.
Brutal.
It was terrible.
Brutal.
But at the same time, you can also look at Miami and say they benefited from 2 really controversial replay overturns.
This is
Virginia
probably
Tech and Cal
this is the playoff committee predicting that.
How far down the well is
this may be how the championships
we're making football judgments about either one horrible performance or a couple of calls that bounced your way.
Because if you look,
oftentimes
if Penn State loses to Oregon, this is where they fall. If Georgia loses to Texas, they feel like this is where they fall.
Changed because it feels
SMU
like in the first
wins, they're in. Boise wins, they're in. This is how it will fall if Georgia loses.
You know, strength of schedule is important, but it's not as important.
So you got a home game versus possibly Indiana. If Georgia loses, and if you win,
on prior years,
you got to bye, and then you're going to.
Schedule was the number one factor, and it wasn't up until this week. And now I think they're finally recognizing that while Miami is explosive offensively, they have massive flaws defensively. And I think when you look, and that's the tough thing about the 12-team playoff, the teams that are vying for that last spot are all flawed.
Yes.
It's just who's less flawed.
I don't think they didn't see it, though. I think they see it, but they don't punish you until you lose. So they see these flaws. And as long as you find ways to win those games,
they don't punish you until you lose.
They won. So, okay, you can let that go by.
Unless you're Ohio State.
Now we're going to punish
Well, it
you.
shouldn't be that way then.
Wow.
Notre
They
Dame.
lost to an unranked
let's go
team,
to
man.
Heather
Notre
Dane.
Dame
She does
should
an
be in there.
unbelievable job covering this for us right now. And Heather, when you and I were talking before the show,
She's pretty
sort of
solid
landed
too.
on the term with all of
She
these
kind of
teams,
knows what
For the
she's
most
talking
part.
about.
She's an Indiana
all
grad.
of them are objectionable to some way
She won't like
to
this-
getting in the
this, though.
playoff, but the least objectionable, they say, at the moment, to Alabama. What's your reaction to what you've seen?
Well, I want to take a minute to remind people that these first round buys can change. And I also want to point out down at the bottom, okay, so we have 11 Alabama and 12 Miami. And we keep talking about the 12th team getting left out for that 5th highest ranked conference champion, which is absolutely correct, Arizona State. But if you have multiple conference champions ranked outside the committee's top 12, and you see down lower in the rankings where you have Clemson, you have Iowa State, you have Arizona State, you have UNLV. If you have 2 of those that still need to get into this bracket on selection day, guess who's out? Not just Miami, Alabama too.
Yes.
So you can have the 11th and 12th team bumped out for the 4th and 5th highest ranked conference champions. That's important to remember.
That's
the
why
other
this
question I
bracket is
have
really
here
jacked
is I'm wondering how much
the
movement these
goal is to get the
conference
best 12
championship
teams, right?
games
That's what we
can
said.
make down below. Can anything else happen to help some of these bubble teams? Because you are going to have some teams that can claim a win against conference champions. So I think that's another big question.
And the other one, too, I'm going to keep pounding this drum. Just seed the field. Enough with its conference champions in the buys.
Yeah.
Look at Penn State. I mean, Arizona State's a good team. Boise State's a good team. You want that to get to the semifinals, or if you're Oregon, the number 1 team, right there, Tennessee or Ohio State? I mean, that's a major flaw in this thing that needs to be corrected immediately, not for this year, but for next year. AT&T is keeping you connected with our bracket insights. Time to sign up for ESPN's first CFP bracket challenge. Play for a chance to win $50,000.
So let's talk. So they're going off of what my notes said for if Georgia loses. So they have Oregon, Texas, Clemson, Boise State. That puts, Penn State, or Arizona State, Notre Dame, SMU. So sorry, Notre Dame, Alabama. That's the only difference. Georgia would be playing a home game in Athens against number 10 Indiana. And then, man, talk about a really great first-round game, Tennessee, Ohio State. That would be in Neyland. And that would be a game that Ryan Day right now is on thin ice. And we know what this athletic director from Ohio State has said before. He said, I fully support Ryan Day, but this is also the old AD for Texas A&M who fully supported Jimbo Fisher, and then he paid the buyout of $60-something million. Ryan Days is only 37.5. If you don't think he'll pay that out, if Ohio State somehow grabs, I think it'll be hard if they lose at Neyland in the first round, but I think if they can get a home game for the first round and lose, I don't know, man. Ryan Day has to be worried. What stands out? I'll go to you, Fish Horse. What stands out the most about what you just saw drop into the playoff bracket?
Just Bama is my big problem, and how much credit they're getting for the why are Bama's losses better than Ole Miss's? Why isn't Ole Miss up there ahead of Bama or with Bama? What's the difference? What's the criteria? Like, it can't just be because they're Bama, even though I'm sure that's what it is, but the losses are the same. Not to the same team necessarily, but the same brand, the same level of team. So maybe even a little worse.
Look at this. So that bracket they have Bama in. Bama, I think, can beat Penn State pretty easily, and I think they can beat Boise.
Yeah, but they shouldn't even get the opportunity.
Well, I neither here nor there. I'm just saying the way this bracket. I mean, literally, the one bracket, the number 3 bracket with Boise playing either Notre Dame or Arizona State is the only bracket that doesn't have an SEC team in it. And if they moved Georgia or Tennessee over to that bracket, you literally could have a SEC team win all of those 4 brackets, and then it would be an all SEC championship.
Yep.
It's fascinating to me. Of course, it's not going to end up that way, but It's pretty interesting.
I mean, don't you guys think that? I mean, do you guys think that I feel like the committee was trying to have a day off for next weekend. I mean, I think if you look at this bracket, they're trying to go, hey, we're going to have a short one next week, because I think they're predicting Texas to win the SEC championship. I think they're predicting SMU to win the ACC. They're predicting Boise to win the Mountain West, and they're falling them in, and they're getting Alabama in there because they're presuming that then Clemson is. I told you that's the way that Alabama gets in. Now, when you look at schedule, let's look at schedule real quick, because I know Fish, you asked this. So we look at Alabama, right? Mm-hmm. So you look at the Alabama losses, which came from Vanderbilt, they came from Tennessee, and they came from Oklahoma. So I would look at Oklahoma and Vanderbilt as bad losses, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So Ole Miss, let's go down to Ole Miss. So you're looking at Kentucky, bad loss. You're looking at Arkansas, bad loss. And you're looking at Florida, which, I mean, they didn't have a good loss, I guess you would say. The good loss for Alabama might have been Tennessee, right? Because they're a playoff team. So I think that's where right there, maybe why Alabama has a little bit of the edge, because you can look at Ole Miss and really say Florida, even though they were a hot team to end the year with 3 wins, they still look at Florida as a 50, a 7-5, 6-6 team. What did Florida win? Florida finish up 7-5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's where they get the tiebreaker. And then you take, let's take our South Carolina. South Carolina, there it is right there. Yeah. Old Dominion was a loss. That was bad, dude. And then LSU was a loss, and then they lost to Ole Miss.
But if they're watching the games like they say they are, then South Carolina is clearly the better team now.
Yes. But
finishing the season, the way they're playing at the moment.
That's why I keep telling you, I think that it's more based on they don't have a strategy.
Yeah.
They don't really have a strategy. It's either, are they hot now? When do they take the loss later? I mean, if you look at Notre Dame, I don't have that schedule pulled up. We can. Let's look at Notre Dame this year. I mean, their losses they don't play a conference championship. That's another flaw to me in what Notre Dame can accomplish.
I think they should have to step up and join a conference.
Yeah. I totally agree with
you. Even if it's the American, who cares?
Yeah. You look at Notre Dame, they're looking at good wins. Texas A&M, Louisville finished ranked 15th. They're looking at as a good win. Navy blew out Navy, which I don't know, blew out Army, and then I guess you would say handled USC. But my big loss is Northern Illinois, and I guess they look at 16-14. But I mean, like, why can't you score? Like, how many times can we like watch Notre Dame get blown out in a playoff game? I mean,
apparently,
do we remember this? Yeah, I mean, do we remember this Notre Dame team that always gets in by the skin of their teeth, and then gets blown out by somebody, and they always go, well, Notre Dame, we don't really think Notre Dame this, and we don't think, and then all of a sudden it's like, you put them in there, but they're going to sit here. I mean, Notre Dame is exactly why Rich Man last night, when you looked at me and said, well, what if Georgia loses? I'm going, they are out of their minds if they don't value the conference championships. I understand that Georgia has to fall in line somewhere. I understand that well, you look at the loser. If you look at Clemson, I understand why they fall out. You look at, does Boise fall out? I don't know. I mean, if UNLV wins, if for some reason, we've seen crazier things. We saw Old Dominion beat South Carolina. And if you would have put Old Dominion up against this South Carolina team right now, that's a blowout. That's a 21, 28 point blowout. So I'm just saying that nothing is a given. But if UNLV beats this Boise team, is Boise still in?
Well, they could beat this Boise team because their offense is prolific and they have no defense, and neither does Boise. So,
and that's my thing. And so you look at UNLV, who's ranked 20th right now. There's no way. We just talked about it. There's no way that you can look at UNLV's big wins are Kansas, but I mean, that's a good win. Is consider what Kansas did towards the end of the year. But every other game that UNLV has won, Houston, Fresno State, lost to Syracuse. That is their one loss, and they lost to Boise already. Now, you guys want to hear what the score was when they lost to Boise? 29-24. That was at Boise. This is neutral field.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't really know, but what happens in that category? So that's why I say there's no way you can tell me that if any of these conference, beside the SEC especially, Georgia's fine. That's where Georgia's going to land if they lose. So you don't have to predict it. I mean, that's where it is, because if not, then Notre Dame is going to have to. They're going to have to talk about Notre Dame, because if I can sit at home and get better, like get healthier, watch some games, eat some popcorn, watch an extra week of game film against maybe a couple teams. I mean, right now Notre Dame's going. I know they kind of know what game film to watch. I mean, would you agree? They kind of do. I mean, we look at so Notre Dame. We really think they're going to be playing. We think they're going to be playing 11 Alabama. So I'm watching Alabama game tape this weekend. Like, I'm getting a head start on Jalen Milroe. I'm not saying it's going to stay that way, but that's what the committee thinks. I mean, the committee's pretty much picking what that 12-team playoff looks like. If they're telling you what they think will happen this weekend. So
I hope so.
Wild. Let's move on.
I feel like if we lose, we have a chance to be playing Alabama and Tuscaloosa again, first round.
That can't happen.
Bro, why not? If they love Bama, dude. Oh my God, they are in love with Bama. And then all of a sudden the head-to-head criteria will pop up. And they'll be like, oh, our reasoning for having them,
or strength of schedule.
Bama
and then somewhere along the way, Georgia's number one strength of schedule won't matter.
It won't matter.
They'll overlook it or something.
They'll flip-flop what they care about. I'm sorry, like, I don't mean to be so resistant. I just think
I agree. I think it's going to be a scrambled egg before it's over.
I mean, I'm just
be careful, Fish, because you stir rich man's pot, man.
That's not what I want to happen.
It gets conspiracy theory.
I feel like it is. You only need 7 people for a conspiracy.
You know about conspiracy theories, right? They're always proven true. So I'll be right in the end.
I was going to do. We're going to do this next week because we're going to have a few weeks to build up to the first playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought we would do great comments by both of you guys in the group chat on a weekly basis and let you guys talk through what that means. Because I mean, if it's up to Fish, Carson Beck is. I'm not going to bust you out, but
it's okay. Go for it.
Carson Beck and who do I pull out of this batch right here? I'm going to pull out for Richman. I really think C.J. Allen is. Am I wrong? C.J. Allen, maybe. C.J. Allen's a guy that I think really you pick on a lot. Am I wrong?
No, I mean,
I think he's just the whole damn defensive line. I think that's Richman right there. The whole damn defensive line.
The whole lot of
them. Maybe. Oh, no. I got it. Richman's 100% Arian Smith. 100%. 100%. That's his nemesis.
Oh, if he catches that Smith,
if he'd have caught like 25% of the drop balls, he'd be over 1,000 yards by now.
Yeah. And if Kirby doesn't go for 2, for whatever reason, we might have won 28-27.
But we don't get 8 overtimes.
Not even had to go to overtime.
We don't get 8 overtimes, right?
No.
That was all in the viewer ratings. That was so Georgia could be, it's Saturday and it's Saturday in Athens, winning a football game. All right, let's move on. So big news before we talk about Texas. Big news. I don't know if I'm breaking this to you guys. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but Colby Young will be in this game on Saturday.
Where did that come from?
Big news. I broke.
Is it on Dogs Nation?
Yeah, it broke.
Okay, because I saw it and I didn't believe it because.
Yeah, no, it was not. It was not fake news, man. Because I'll break it on.
I know Dog Nation wouldn't put fake news out there, but I saw it on some weird site, so I was like, I don't believe that.
Yeah. Well, no, I think this is. I mean, he was legitimately able to come back to practice last week and held out. I think that was on purpose. Yeah, man. I mean, I think this is a no-brainer.
All
As
right,
far as
let me ask you a question. So since '92, there have been 5 teams that beat the same team twice in a season. There have been 2 teams that lost and then came back and beat that team in the same season. The one who came back and beat that team twice for the one time in the season was Kirby. So I think the odds are in our favor, and I think we match up. I think we're going to win it.
Well, I mean, would you all agree that when you look at the 12 coaches that are in this, playoff pool, right? I mean, I would venture to say that Dan Lanning would tell you in an interview right now, he very much looks up to Kirby as a role model, as a coach that has brought him and, got him to where he's at. He's, and he would look at Saban and a couple other coaches and mentors as well.
Right.
But I mean, I think we can unanimously say that the most NFL ready mindset in that 12 teams, the 12 team grouping is Kirby. And they mentioned that, you get to this point where the college football feels so much like the NFL, and especially with this playoff, you're going to start seeing, NFL teams play people in their division twice.
Right.
You try to prepare that you're going to see them multiple times. I mean, Georgia could see Texas 3 times this year.
Could.
Probably will.
I mean, we really could. And so, that's why, you got to wonder if this playoff was put, the cart before the horse type thing, because it's like you figured out there needed to be a 12-team playoff, but you didn't figure out when you made the 12-team playoff if it was going to still value the conference championship. Because barring, the playoff committee they're not going to do the SEC championship like that. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but that's the longest game, regardless of if we were playing Georgia Tech from 7 years ago with the option offense. It's the longest game of the year because it's like 4.5 hours long, because they're going to put in 72 commercials and they make about $60 million off of that game.
Yeah.
And, so it ain't going anywhere. But here's a question. Here's a question before we get into Texas, because I love what somebody said about this. Wouldn't you value more an SEC play-in game right there? What if you could get Alabama versus Ole Miss to get into the playoff right there, instead of 2 teams that are kind of, okay, they're going to be in the playoff? Wouldn't you rather see those 2 teams there than Texas and Georgia? I mean, you could settle it once and for all, especially the ACC as well. So there's bubble teams. Why play an ACC championship? Why not let them rest? They literally finished as the top 2 teams in the best conference, and you're making them play another game.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
What if Miami was playing Clemson to get in? And SMU, doesn't SMU deserve? They have 1 loss to BYU, and they've done phenomenal in the ACC.
Yeah.
And so give them the outright championship. And I know you kind of look at it and you go, well, what happens in a tiebreaker? Well, that happened back in the day, right? Yep. So crown them SEC champions, give them the championship. If it's a tie and there's 2 records that are the same, go head to head or head to head against other opponents. And then if you can't get there from then, go against, points scored or whatever.
Stats.
But what would you value more in that spot? Right now, I would much rather, instead of watching a Mountain West game, I would much rather be watching, take the next, 6 teams, 8 teams, and let them play a play-in game. Dude, Ole Miss versus Alabama right now, they didn't play each other this year. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I've said for a long time, get rid of the bowl game. Don't get rid of the bowl games, but get rid of the bowl games and make these bowl games playoff games that lead up to the national championship.
Right. But let me ask you this, and I don't know this, but did Alabama play Ole Miss this year? I don't think they did.
They didn't.
I mean, guys, both of these guys are talking about everybody's fighting their cause right now. Let Miami, let them play South Carolina. Let them, if we want the best 12 teams in that playoff field.
Oh, my God. South Carolina would curb stomp Miami.
That's what I'm saying, though. Can you imagine a playoff bracket with, let's look at the AP poll. and let's talk through it, man. I mean, let's just really talk about if it were up to really our opinions, like what would it look like if they played and got in? So let's just say an Ole Miss and an Alabama played each other to get in, because right now, I mean, okay, do you think Notre Dame would beat Ole Miss, Alabama, Miami, or South Carolina on a neutral field? Yes or no? Go.
I have different answers for different teams.
So you're thinking that's all you got to do. Give them. Can they beat one of those?
Yeah,
I think they
definitely
one of those.
Miami.
I think
who is it? Miami.
South Carolina. I don't
Miami.
know.
I think Miami.
I think Miami. But my thing is this. Okay, then if that's the case, then you still got to throw Notre Dame out. You got to throw them out because it gives them 2 losses.
I think they should be disqualified for not being in the conference.
So keep Georgia, keep Tennessee. They've earned it. Keep Ohio State. Keep SMU. Keep Indiana. Keep Boise State. Okay, here we go. Alabama versus Ole Miss. Who do you think wins on a neutral field right now?
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
I think you're right. I think it's Ole Miss, and I think if you add to that, if you kick that freaking 5th conference, like that group of 5 game out of there, then guess who else slides in there? You get it. I mean, I would slide, me personally, I would slide a Colorado.
I was about to say the same thing.
Yep.
I mean, you let Colorado get into that 12-team playoff and
the way they're playing right now.
The way they're playing right now, like, what does that do? I mean, we're talking about getting the best 12 teams in.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be more exciting than the SEC championship?
I mean, don't they want the Heisman?
The ACC championship?
Don't they want the official Heisman winner? You know, in there in the playoffs for viewership and ratings and all that good stuff.
To get the best 12 in, you probably definitely need to start back at 16 or so, for sure.
Yeah. I agree.
All right, let's beat up Texas a little bit, and let's pick all these games real quick. Lightning round, right? Offense. Talking offense. Fish, let's go to you. What does the offense got to do against Texas to win this game?
Oh my God, the first half, bro. What do they do? What are they doing? What's really going on? Like, why can't they score points until it matters?
Well, let's hope that they don't decide to ground and pound Texas, since we haven't grounded and pounded anybody all season.
I know, but let's go ahead and show it. Roderick's back. First game. Let's throw him, let's strap our cart to him and, let him carry us to the promised land, which he was not ready to do. So I'm glad he's back. And I think, watch out when whoever we play first round of the playoffs with 3 weeks to rest or 2 weeks to rest. Watch out.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, we're gonna get a lot more healthy. And we're not afraid of the cold.
Will finally figure out what his strength of schedule will look like if he, honestly though, like, I mean, we're going to pick the game, but yeah,
the defense doesn't match up with us. I mean, even if it's a shootout, we'll win by 14.
Right.
I think, but our defense. What's going on with our defense? I know you said talk offense. I'm sorry. Hold on. I'll scratch that question.
Yeah.
But that we got to catch the ball, man.
So you're saying biggest thing though. You think biggest thing is catch the. I mean, I guess catch the ball would be a thing you can't really throw in there. We got to catch the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a given.
Play calling,
play calling. I think play.
I mean, there's a few to choose from.
Yeah. What about you,
Richman? We got to
have
have a good scheme. We can't just come out and decide we're going to ground and pound anymore, because that's stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
That ain't us.
we
have a finesse offense, and we need to have a good game plan, and we need to finesse it and get it rolling. And we don't need to wait until the second half.
Exactly.
Kirby?
Yeah. I think that's very key. That was exactly my answer. I think this is what I would love to see the offense do to assure a win versus Texas. I want Bobo's mindset to be third quarter in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Give me your third quarter mentality in the first quarter.
Whatever he does in the locker room between
at
halftime, do it pregame.
Yes.
Just go ahead. Go ahead.
And I don't want to see 20 scripted plays. I don't care
No.
about 20 plays that you think will work.
Don't
Just
write
go
down
out
right
there
now
and
what we're
do
going to
what
do.
you do in the third quarter. Do
Exactly.
that.
Fly by the seat of your pants. Do it. You're smart. You know the plays. Carson knows the plays. The offense knows the plays.
And please
Go
don't
and
wait
see.
till the second half to throw the ball to our tight ends, please.
Exactly. Come out and throw the ball 20 times in a row.
Yeah.
That would not hurt my feelings.
I agree.
You know,
What about
let Beck
defense?
sling it, man. Because when we played Tennessee, he just went out there and was slinging the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't get off to a hot start, you know, because again, drops kill drives, you know, and that kills momentum. That kills his psyche. He has to go on the sideline and shake it off, you know, and it might take him another drive or two to shake it off.
But generally,
you know,
we get started with some swing passes, a couple of screens, and then he works
Ton
it
of
in
screens.
short, and then midfield, and then eventually you'll see one go over the top. But you know, I wouldn't mind seeing one go over the top early.
Right.
First play of the game. Drop back and sling it.
Right. I agree. I like it, man. Give me the third quarter scheme in the first quarter.
Exactly.
Defense. I got to read Richman first. If we're going to win this game, what does the defense got to do well?
We need to do what we did last time. I mean, we need to mix our defense. I mean, we disguise our defense, our secondary, and keep yours a little bit off kilter there.
Yep.
Our hopefully we're going to be able to do the same thing with our front four. I mean, if we can control the line of scrimmage and get after Ewers with our front four like we did last time, I think we're going to be golden. But we've you know, that's complimentary. As long as they're putting pressure on the quarterback, our secondary looks good. But if they put no pressure on our quarterback, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah. Fish, defense?
Got to tackle, bro. And I know that's fundamentals, so maybe fundamentals is my answer. I don't know. But I'm tired of seeing guys hit the hole, get stuck, and then pop out and run for 25, 30 more yards. That happened like twice, 2 or 3 times against UMass, and that happened first drive of the game against Tech.
So I was,
they went
watching
downfield,
some film this week on that, and one of the things that I can't figure out is because Ted, I've talked to you about this. It's like the responsibilities of our linebackers and the contain. It seems like they just don't do it, and so part of me's wondering if those are stunts. And like I've said, I mean, Schumann lives by the stunt, and a lot of times, I mean, we stunt the wrong way and we get blistered. I personally would like to see us play a little old-fashioned lineup and let our linebackers run and fill the gaps. And
go back and watch man, that first half, dude. Count how many times you see somebody just throw a shoulder at somebody instead of wrapping up, trying to knock them down. I mean, it happened a lot.
You know what? The stripping the ball thing, man. Don't strip the ball. Just make the tackles.
Just tackle him. Just
put
him on the ground.
If you want to fumble, go see Jackson. He'll show you how to do that. Put the hat on.
He will. He popped Haynes King. Ooh,
it was targeting.
Put the hat on.
Yeah, I'm surprised it didn't get called. To be honest,
I was
waiting on it.
Put the face
almost
mask
deleted
on
Richman out of my phone.
They won't call it.
I almost literally deleted Richman out of my phone, dude. When he said targeting, I was like, you go look at the response. I don't want to hear that crap. I literally said, I don't want to hear that crap, dude.
Dude, I put my phone down after halftime. I just put my phone down and I walked away from it. When I came back at the end of regulation, 112 messages between the two of you.
Yeah, man.
I was like, oh my God, it took me 20 minutes to catch up.
Somebody had to be with us before we had a heart attack. Fish, we would have both died and you would have known.
I know.
Crazy, dude.
Sorry, guys.
All right, man. Championship weekend. I don't think it's an exciting weekend, but we'll have these games, right?
Well, we're playing.
Let's pick them. Let's pick them. Let's talk a little bit about them. Nobody wants that 4:00 time slot with the SEC. But the earliest game that is starting is that game. I'm sorry, 12 o'clock. So 12 o'clock ABC. The now 16th ranked Iowa State Cyclones versus the 15 Arizona State Sun Devils. Arizona State getting 2 points. Who you got, Richmond?
I'm going to take the Sun Devils.
Sun Devils.
Yep.
Kenny Dillingham. He said it to his, I guess, his fan base. He said, "Pay the men their money." This man's ready to pay $20 million like Ryan Day for a team in Arizona State. What about you, Fish?
Y'all remember Jake, the Snake Plumber?
I do.
Best alumni they have. Best football player I think they've ever had. He was so much
Well,
fun
to play
watch.
for the Cardinals. He even stayed close to home.
Yep. So
Yeah.
give me the fight. Give me the Sun Devils.
Yep.
The Fighting Sun Devils. I'm gonna take Arizona State. This is played. This is in Arlington, man. So it's a little close to home. Close to home for Arizona. He just kind of stays down there in the, I guess what you would call the hot states. Jerry's World. Give me Arizona State. I think they cover. But Iowa State. This is the notorious thing though. Iowa State likes to keep it really low scoring. And I think if you keep this game low scoring, it puts Arizona State in a really weird bind. Because I think they thrive off of getting into offensive stuff. Dillingham's an offensive guy. But I think if you keep this score low, watch out. Because Iowa State, this game really doesn't matter. It's just going to determine who's going to be the 12th seed. That's pretty much it. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Unless this next game we're going to pick right now, unless we see something happen different. But I got Arizona State in that one. Number 20, UNLV plays Boise State. This is going to be in Boise. This game's still not played. That's weird, right? This is going to be, this is a home game. So I didn't know this. Boise's at home. They kind of changes things.
That's crazy.
For the Mountain West Championship. Boise won last time by 5 points. They're getting 4 points right now at home. Who you got, Fish?
They should have to change the turf to a natural green color to host the conference championship game.
Grinch green. How about that?
I'm just saying. Boise State at home, Genty runs for 250 plus.
What did he run for last time? Let's
like 220, 225, something like that. Wild. 229. That was a lot. Wild. It was over 200.
Richman, who you got?
I got Boise at home. I think that
it's hard to count Genty out, man. It's going to be cold, possibly. Maybe some snow out in Boise this weekend. Genty is this man went out there in pregame with no shirt on, and it was like 12 degrees.
Dude, that's ridiculous. Put a shirt on, man. You ain't impressing nobody.
I mean, he's an impressive. You can see
why
he runs people over,
cold. Man. There's no. I know he's solid as a rock, but there's no way he's not cold.
Yeah, Genty, man. Give me Genty and the Boise State Broncos, man. They cover. They may even they win probably by at least 10. But be careful, man, because if UNLV wins this game, it throws the committee for a loop. It's going to really throw the committee because that possibly could get an Arizona State or Iowa State. This is where this 12-team thing will get stupid because you're going to put an Arizona State or an Iowa State as your bye-week fourth best team per the bracket in the country. That's insane. 8:00 Tulane, the Who Cares Bowl, the Who Cares Championship, American Athletic Championship. Tulane goes to Army. 8:00. Who you got, Fish?
Tulane. That's where John Wilson went to school. Do you remember him?
Mm-hmm. Well, John
From high school. Yep, he went to Tulane. Give me the Green Wave.
Yeah. Who you got? Richmond?
I'll take the Wave.
Give me Army, man. It's going to be cold. This is at West Point. Man. The soldiers the Army soldiers will be saluting in the snow. Yes, there will be snow on the ground, possibly. Tulane is in Louisiana. They don't know what cold weather looks like in Louisiana. They know what more hurricanes look like.
Well, don't they play in a dome too? No, they play outside.
They do.
Do they play in a dome? Okay.
They do. They play in the Superdome.
Oh, okay. All right, gotcha.
I don't know if they do anymore. That's a good question. I can't confirm that.
I thought Ole Miss played them last year and they were outside. I thought that was an outside game.
Weather is supposed to be 26 and flurries.
You're right. That might favor Army.
Yeah.
I love a snow game.
Army. I got Army. The last salute, firing the cannons off.
Boom.
The boys of Army.
Yes, sir.
All right, last two here. I'm sorry, three. Number 17, Clemson goes to SMU. Actually, this is played in Charlotte, North Carolina, ACC Championship, 8 o'clock. Everybody fighting for that 8 o'clock time slot, man. SMU favored by a meek 2.5 points. Who you got, Richman?
SMU.
Confident SMU. Confident SMU. What about you, Fish?
I want Clemson to win, so SMU gets that spot, and Bama does not make the playoff.
This is tough, man. Like
good old Clems.
It's just one of those things. You got to look at Dabo, and you got to look at this defense, how it was disrespected against South Carolina. This is a throwing quarterback, right? Yep. Doesn't do a lot. Doesn't scare them a lot with their legs. I think I like Clemson in this one. I don't know why I like Clemson in this one. I just think they're a little more out of the ACC. This is a first year for SMU in the ACC, right? Yep. So give me Clemson, man. Give me Dabo. He's been in this game. It's 37 degrees, man. Once again, like it's in the backyard. This is maybe a home game for Clemson.
It's very close, yeah.
Hey,
2.5 points. It kind of says they're worried.
Isn't this the first team SMU's had that was good since they got
the death penalty?
The death penalty.
Yep.
And they got the death penalty for going out and buying a team, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And now they've gone out and bought a new team and they're rolling, huh?
I mean, Rhett Lashley's a really good coach.
This NIL thing's just played right into their. It's all that old money out there, man.
They're the most experienced at NIL, unofficial NIL.
I'm just wondering, like, does Clemson have enough? Do they have enough defense for Clemson? Because South Carolina has a really good defense, and I think Clemson, like, did some things to put them on the ropes, and so I'm wondering, like, does SMU? I know they have enough offense.
What time is this game? I need.
This game's at 8. This game's at 8 o'clock, man. ABC.
I'm excited to watch this one.
37 degrees at night. I mean,
and the Big Ten and the ACC championship at the same time.
They don't want that 4 o'clock time slot, bro. But they know that game's not getting watched.
Georgia, Texas all day long.
Yeah, they're not going to get that game. I mean, honestly, they're going up against Penn State, Oregon. I don't know if the game's going to get watched. I mean, everybody's going to be in flip mode at 8 o'clock that night. So
yeah,
I'm going to have my tablet going with one game, and the other game that I prefer to watch
is on the TV. Penn State, Oregon, because I'm pretty sure Oregon's going to take care of business.
I hope so. I don't want Jeff Franklin to get any kind of hype.
Let's pick it, man. Oregon, Penn State. You guys are moving on, man. That's fine. I get it. Lucas Oil Stadium, Indianapolis, inside. No, it's good. Inside. These guys this would be the best outcome for Oregon because Oregon. I'm sorry for Oregon. I mean, both of these teams, in my opinion, like when you look at this game, I don't know about you guys, but it's hard to look and see Oregon only favored by 3.5 after what they did to Ohio State and after Penn State losing to Ohio State. So this is a tricky. Is it a tricky game? I don't know. Who you got, Fish? Oregon, Penn State.
Oregon, and they definitely cover.
I mean,
that's
Franklin
they're
can
covering.
Improve a lot here. They say Franklin can't win the big game. This is the biggest game of his career. Would you?
I agree, but I think
Penn State's finally going to get into a playoff game. They're finally going to play a game this time of year that matters. So this is where Franklin is tested, right?
That's only because it's 12 teams.
Correct. So you got Oregon. I take it big.
Yeah. No, well, at least by 7, at least by a touchdown.
Who you got, Richman?
Quack quack quack
quack quack. The flying V, baby.
The Ducks. Yeah, man. Ducks go quack. I don't even. What movie is Dan Lanning watching with these guys? They get Gladiator 2. Like, did they go to the movie?
No, dude, it's Mighty Ducks 3.
I don't know if that was.
Hey, he's probably watching Patton.
Probably.
Opening speech.
And Penn State's watching Saving Private Ryan opening. Where I don't know. That's a bad one. All right, yeah, I got Oregon.
Private Benjamin, right?
You're right. Exactly. All right, 4 o'clock game, last pick of the night. Number now 5, Georgia Number 2, Texas. This is in Atlanta, right where we want it. Texas favored. I hope College Game Day picks Texas all 6 times.
They won't this
Just
time.
go ahead, man. I hope there's burnt orange all in the Classic Center. Sorry, not the Classic Center, in the for SEC Fanfare. I think that I don't know what is that building called over there. I think it's the World Congress Center over there where they have it. It can just be burnt orange everywhere. I mean, this is going to be a backyard game for Georgia. This is going to be a definite crowd change, because when we were in Austin, we were definitely, it was like 80-20. Apparently, they're not allowed to sell any bottled water in this game. I don't know if that's true or not. But so, yeah,
hilarious.
So maybe they won't try to steal the game off of bottled water tosses. But Fish, I'll let you go first, man. Who you got, and give me a score.
Horns down. Give me Georgia in a close one. Georgia 30, Texas 25.
Same amount of points, around the same amount of points they scored last time.
Yep.
Who you got, Richman?
I got the Dogs.
What's the score?
I'm going to go 35-21.
35-21. This is a high scoring game right here. This is a high scoring game. I like Georgia with a little bit more of the crowd. I like Carson, hopefully, with a little less interceptions. I like the running game if it can get Branson in there, mixed in with Rod, mixed in with Frazier, mixed in with Cash.
Oh my God! Throw it to Colby and let him catch the ball. Oh my God!
And Colby, I like how this is panning out. If we can use them, and I like Bobo with this third quarter mentality in the first quarter. Now, I hope he's listening in. I'm going to tag him in this podcast if he listens to this. But I think Georgia wins. I think it's very close in the first half, which bodes well for Georgia. Right? They don't have to worry about the big comeback. But I think close for Georgia in the first half is fine. I think this is like a 13-10 type game in the first half. Hopefully that kind of Georgia. I think when the offense can play where the defense puts them in good situations, we are much more comfortable. I think when we play from behind a little bit, we play a little bit more. I think the play calling gets a little tighter. But I think when you look at what Carson was able to do with 3 interceptions and beat them by that amount of points, I think if Carson can limit interceptions, I think if the defense can show up. Jalen Walker, huge again. If he can find Ewers, if you can give him free to just pin his ears back and get to Ewers, this is going to be a lot less tighter than people think. If Carson doesn't throw any picks, this game is a 2-touchdown game. I agree, Rich, man. I like 34 around that number, 34 to like maybe 24, 10-point game. I kind of like that. All keying off of that, though. It gets very close if Carson is, if he throws a few picks, if we don't tackle well. I don't think Georgia will not show up.
Let me ask you this. Kirby in the presser said that he mentioned about Texas's run game and how they've improved their run game. You think they're going to try to come out and pound us with the run?
Of course. Why wouldn't they?
I think Kirby Smart is the best presser I've ever seen since Nick Saban. He will say anything he can. It's all a game plan to him. The presser is a game plan. You look at what he says. I mean, Kirby is the guy that's always going to give the respect, right? He respects, you look back and he respects Tennessee Tech like he respects Texas. So everything you're going to hear him say in respect to Sark, in respect to the run game, in respect to Ewers, to Arch, to the big tight end, I forget the kid's name, to how well the defense has come along and is doing better. But, the biggest thing is that Kirby's, it's all a game plan. And what he says in those pressers is key to, sometimes it's a mind game, man.
Yep.
It's really a mind game.
Good point.
And I think that he does not, he doesn't, that's not part of he's not thinking that. I don't think he thinks that. That's not part of the game plan, but it is part of him going, listen, I'm just going to show you the back of my cards. That's all I'm going to show you. And sometimes I carry them this way, sometimes I hold them this way, but at the end of the day, you're only going to see the back of my cards, and I'm always going to respect you. We're always going to conversate across the table, but I think that's huge into why he's so respected throughout college football, even not only by his former coaches. You look at Fran Brown, and you look at him taking time out of his day to text Fran Brown and go, "Hey, man, you're gonna crush it." I don't know the exact words he told him, but for Fran Brown to take time out of his day when he's celebrating a victory over, that big of a victory over Miami, to thank Kirby Smart, and that just says, it bodes, and it says huge things about Kirby. And I think even how he talks is part of the game plan. Right, so I think he's worried about everything. I think, not worried, this is the wrong word. I think he is keying on everything. I think he's talking about how we're going to defend the pass, how we're going to disguise this. That Texas is going to be watching that tape. So how Kirby goes about doing it, does he disguise it this way? Does he disguise it that way? And he trusts Schumann, right? We get so pissed at sometimes at the blitzes and how they occur and how they work out. But, Schumann did something that was spectacular against Tech. He said, you know what? We're not gonna lose by being pansies. The biggest thing that changed the momentum of overtimes was when he decided to start blitzing, in those 2-point conversions. And it was more of concern of could we score than could we stop him, in my opinion. I felt like we were going to stop him. It was just, can we get it in the end zone? And will they get lucky on one of these, right?
Right.
So I think it's part of the conversation to me. I think it's going to be a great game. I think we're going to figure out, we're going to be sitting here in about a month and a half talking about the offseason and wondering how all this played out to the committee, and did these games matter, and how do they warrant them, and so on and so forth. But we've hit the goal so far. The goal is the SEC championship, and we sat here at the beginning of the year knowing how hard our schedule would be, and we're there. And just so happens that the team we played, we had a really good showing against. But I would definitely say this has been something that has been a little bit of a, I don't know. We've thrived in this area of being the team that comes back and beats you when you beat us in the regular season. I think I was there 7-8 years ago against Auburn, Jared Stidham. They beat us. We had a lot going. That pushed us into the playoff that year.
And then we lost to Bama in the SEC championship and came back and beat them for the national championship.
So, but that's why I think to Kirby, though, it's not that. He's not playing that card. He's not playing that. I will tell you that there's been some chatter from Texas. There's been some Barron. I forget that kid's name is Michael Barron or something. Has already said, we don't fear Georgia. I know you don't fear Georgia, but you do have to understand that you're going to have to make some adjustments, because the first showing in Austin, Texas, from the quote unquote elite Texas, was not your best showing. So
they may not fear Georgia, but they better fear the second half.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Sark will be ready, but Kirby gets another shot at correcting some things on offense and maybe even having a better showing on defense. I do think that if we can get pressure with, the key on defense for me is getting pressure with 4, keeping that umbrella. I think that's where they thrive right there, is being able to stretch the field. And then when you're worried about the stretch, they really start they start snipping you like Tech did. They start getting you for 7 or 8 yards. And then on offense, like we said have a game plan where Carson can just be comfortable off rip.
I'm not worried about offense as much. I think the defense is going to be where the game's won or lost.
Especially how they look this weekend.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, boys.
But it's going to be
a good weekend.
You can throw that Tech game out. We ran some really strange defense, and we stayed in the same defense 90% of the time, and we didn't make adjustments.
Yeah.
And, this is a totally different offense. Look, what they did to us just doesn't match up well with what we do.
Yeah. And you're going to see those, but I tell everybody, and I've been answering it the same way all week. Wouldn't Ohio State have loved to have been Georgia this week? That's all I got to say. It's all about.
I'll tell you what, when we get into the playoffs, let's have a conversation about the big 4- and 5-star linemen that you see at the at Georgia, at Ohio State, at Penn State, at Alabama, versus the kind of linemen we're going to see from Boise State, from Arizona State. The matchup on that's going to be kind of interesting. We'll talk about that some.
Yep. I agree. I'm glad you mentioned that, Dog fans.
Yes,
when you wake up in the morning, you're going to start seeing letters come in. Tomorrow is the beginning of early signing period. So lots going on. We're going to see it's a wild week, man. We're going to see a class start coming together. And then Friday before the SEC championship, one of the big names still out there, Justice Terry. We're going to figure out what he's going to do on Friday. Is it Auburn? Is it Georgia? And who do we flip? There's always a flip.
Cross your fingers for that 5-star receiver out there at Utah that just he just decommitted from USC. So that might be a long shot, but that would be a nice shot if we could turn him.
Yeah,
there's a flip coming from somewhere, but I don't know where it is.
As long as he can catch, I don't care.
All right, guys. Well, it's going to be a great week. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great weekend. Always fun. We'll be joining up next week to talk about what's next steps as far as where Georgia's going to sit and looking at like what's next for Georgia. But right now we're going to focus on Texas, and I think the committee's kind of given us what they think is going to happen. So hopefully we can prove them wrong. So for myself, Rich, man, Fish, always a pleasure, man. And you guys have a great week. Let's have a great championship game. And as always, go Dogs.
Go Dogs, baby.